Okay, so first off, before we get started, somebody remind me what slope-intercept form is. What's slope-intercept form? Y equals, good, y equals mx plus b. What does m stand for? Your slope. And what about your b? Y-intercept. Alright, so the first box, we are just writing an equation in slope-intercept form when we're given the slope and the y-intercept. So this is exactly what we did yesterday. This isn't anything new. Yes, you do not have a sheet. Sorry. There you go. So I know my slope is 3, my y-intercept is 5, so we're simply just plugging in m and b into that formula. So this should be y equals 3x plus 5. Nothing new there. The second one, we are finding the equation of that graph. So yesterday when I was graphing equations, what was the first thing that I needed to graph? The y-intercept. So same thing here, that's the first thing that I need to identify. Okay, so wherever it's touching the y-axis, that is my y-intercept. So b should be what? -1. And then just like when I'm graphing, the second thing is to find the slope from that point. So you just want to choose any point on that graph, but you need to make sure that it's an exact point that you know. So that means I'm going to come all the way down here to this point, because I know exactly what point that is. You could also choose this one right there. Either one, doesn't matter. So from my y-intercept, in order to get to this point, I had to go down 2 and then over 3. So that means my slope should be -2 over +3. Questions on that? So then we already know slope and y-intercept. Slope and y-intercept, so just plug that in. So y equals -2/3 x minus 1, because b is -1. So find that y-intercept first, and then from that point find your slope. Good on that? Okay. Next, we have a point and a slope. So I need to figure out how to write the equation for that in slope-intercept form. So if I think about my equation, or my formula, y equals mx plus b. I know what m is. Is there anything here that tells me b? No, but what about x and y? This point is x comma y, right? So I know m, I know x, and I know y. So we're just going to plug all three of those numbers into this formula, which leaves me with just b. And then that, I can find out my y-intercept. I can solve for b. Okay. So my y is 5. My m is 1/2. So that means 1/2 times x, which is 2. And then I don't know b. So that's just going to be plus b. Now you can kind of simplify. What is 1/2 times 2? That's just 1. So 5 equals 1 plus b. And now I have what? What is that called? A one-step equation, right? So how can I solve for b? Subtract 1 from both sides. Good. So then that leaves me with 4 equals b. Okay. So now do I know everything I need to plug it into y-intercept form? Or slope-intercept form, sorry. Yes, I'm going to take my m and my b. So that means y equals 1/2 x plus 4. And that's the equation of that graph. Okay. Questions? Do You're simply just taking the pieces of information they give you. They gave you M, X, and Y. Just plug them in and solve for B. Okay. All right, what about this next one? I have 2 points. I have 5, 5, and 3, 7. Do you remember from last semester, or last year, how you can find slope from 2 points? It's a certain formula that we used. Not rise over run. Yes. But what was my formula for that?
It's X1.
Close.
Y1 plus Y2, X1 plus X2.
Flip what Charlie just said. You're close. Charlie had X's on top. Should X be on top or on bottom? Bottom. Y goes on top. Okay. So this formula, M equals Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Remember that now? So then that means my 0.55, that is X1, Y1, and then 3, 7 would be X2, Y2. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do, so put a little 1 right there so you know, you need to find the slope. So Y2 we said is 7. So I have 7 minus Y1, which is 5. Over X2 minus X1, so that should be 3 minus 5. So what's 7 minus 5? 2. 3 minus 5? Negative 2. So what is 2 divided by negative 2? Simplified. Negative 1. Okay. So what is my slope? Negative 1. So now I can pretty much do what I just learned to do up here in this example before. Up here I was given a slope and a point. Now I have a slope and I have a point, right? So you're just going to choose either point. It does not matter. So make a little note. Choose either point. I'm just going to choose that very first one, the 5, 5. So I'm going to circle it so I know that's what I'm doing. So now I have my slope and I have 1 point. So the second thing I need to do is exactly what we just did in example 3. We're going to take that formula, y equals mx plus b, and we're going to plug in 5 for y, because I'm choosing that 0.55. I found that m was negative 1, so I've got negative 1 times x, which is 5 as well, and then plus b. Questions so far? So now I've got 5 equals a negative 5 plus b. So how do I solve for b? Yes.
You add 5 to both sides.
Good. Add 5 to both sides. So then that leaves me with b equals 10. So now do I have everything I need to write that equation in slope-intercept form? I've got my m and I've got my b. So somebody tell me what that formula should be, or that equation should be.
Y equals 1x.
Negative 1x. Do I need to put that 1 necessarily?
No.
Can I just say negative x?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to say negative x.
Plus
Good.
10.
If you put negative 1x, it's not that big of a deal. You can do that. Okay. But technically, fully simplified, should just be negative x. So that's my equation. So first you find your slope using your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and then plug it in to your formula to find b. Okay. Questions? Okay. What about if I'm given a table? Is this basically the same thing as what we just did up here?
Yes.
I'm given 3 points, right? I only need 2 points. So we're just going to say that this first point right here, this is my x1 and my y1, and this is my x2 and my y2. You could totally use the point 620 and 723 if you wanted. Or you could use 414 and 723. It doesn't matter. Just pick two of the points. Okay. And then we're going to use that same formula. Can y'all see that okay? Make it a little bit bigger. So y2 is 20. y1 is 14. x2 is 6. x1 is 4. So then 20 minus 14 gives me 6. 6 minus 4 gives me 2. What is 6 divided by 2? 3. So my slope is, fill in the blank, 3. M is 3. That's what we just found. Okay. Questions? So again, you could choose any of those points as long as you plug them into that formula correctly. Alright, and now, just like what we did up here, we choose one of the points. So I'm just going to choose this first one again. So I'm going to choose 414. And I'm going to plug them into my slope-intercept form. So my y is 14. My m is 3. My x is 4. And then I'm trying to find out what b is. So once you multiply on the right-hand side, you get 14 equals 12 plus b. And then how do I solve for b? Good. So then b equals what? 2. Now what? Yeah. Write your equation in slope-intercept form now. So what did you say, Kaylee?
Y equals 3x plus 2.
Good. Y equals 3x plus 2. Questions? It's not too bad if you can just remember what steps you need to do first. So find your slope first, and then take that m, x, and y, plug it into the formula for slope-intercept form to find b. And then all you need is that m and that b to plug it back in for your final equation. Okay. All right, next example, we pretty much know how to do this already too. We did a little bit of this yesterday. This equation is not in slope-intercept form. This is actually called standard form. Whenever we're given an equation in standard form, what do we have to do first in order to get it into y-intercept form, slope-intercept form? What are you trying to do? Get y by itself, because you want it to look like this. So that means I need all this 2x and this 4 to go away. I need it to go to the other side. So what am I going to do first? What did you say first before you said divide? Subtract 2x first. Remember, we undo everything in the opposite order of operations. So you're going to undo your addition or subtraction first, then multiplication and division. So you're left with 4y, and then remember, you want that, excuse me, you want that x term first. So this would be negative 2x plus 12. Now you want to divide all three terms by 4. So you're left with y equals, what's negative 2 divided by 4 simplified? Negative 1/2. So you have negative 1/2 x plus 3. And now our equation is in slope-intercept form. Questions? We good? Okay. Last example, we have a word problem. This says, water bottle flipping has become very popular. Joey has already landed 25 bottles, and he will flip bottles until he lands 3 more each day. So if he already has landed 25, what do you think that's going to represent in our equation? B, by y-intercept. That's exactly kind of like the the kite question yesterday and the automobile question last night. So your initial height of the flight was 60. You've already landed 25 bottles, so that number by itself, that's always going to be your B. Okay. And then he says we're going to continue to flip until we get 3 more each day. So we don't know how many days we're looking at, but how would we write 3 more each day? 3x. So then what would my equation in slope-intercept form be?
Y equals 3x plus 25.
Good. Y equals 3x plus 25. Any questions? Okay. Keep up with these notes. Very important. If you can look back at these notes, you should be fine, okay? You should be able to do every problem that I've assigned you for your homework if you look at these notes. I've given you an example of every type of problem you'll have, okay? So your homework is in your book. It's 1 through 10 and then 14 through 17. I don't believe any of these are graphing. Haven't looked. I need to look. If you are graphing something, make sure you graph it on graph paper, but I'm pretty sure you're just writing all equations, so you shouldn't need graph paper. Those first 2 rows, you can go ahead and get a book.